Welcome back to the Cyber Risk TV live stream from the expo floor at InfoSec World 2024. We're excited to be here celebrating the 30th anniversary of InfoSec World. I'm your host, Dr. Dustin Sachs, and today I'm joined by the amazing Shannon Rowbury, who is a three-time Olympian and managing partner at West Strategy Group. And today we're talking about your keynote, the Medalist Mindset, the synergy of leadership, athlete mindset, cybersecurity, and technology for business success. Shannon, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I have to say, my wife knows this, but I've grown up as a Summer Olympics fan since a very little kid. So this is cool. This is the highlight of my conference, getting to spend some time with you. You gave a phenomenal keynote this morning. I mean, we were looking around the audience, and everybody was just engaged, leaning in. Tell us a little bit about what you talked about, what the Medalist Mindset is.
Yeah, thank you. It's a privilege to be here at InfoSec with everybody. It's such a great crowd of people, such great attendance and engagement, and conversations, like interactions that are really meaningful. Our talk, I was on stage with Bob West, who's fellow managing partner at West Strategy Group, and the idea of Medalist Mindset is really taking sports performance tools that Olympians leverage and applying them towards business and life goals. I created it with a fellow Olympian named Lauren Gibbs. She's a bobsled silver medalist. And she and I had worked together at a sports tech startup and built a friendship. And as we talked about the work we were doing, we were having conversations with individuals, but also with businesses. And we kept coming back to the same kind of core points. And we felt like there was this really important opportunity to take those sports performance tools that Olympians leverage and kind of distill them down and create them in a way that felt kind of purposeful and something that anyone could follow to hopefully have tools to unlock their potential, whatever that might be.
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of amazing that we're getting to have this conversation so shortly after, a Summer Olympics. And, I think what would be really cool to understand is, having gone through, all of us heard for, 16 days about the training and the work that you all put in for years to get to that stage. What were the lessons that you took from that you immediately were like, this could apply elsewhere and should apply elsewhere, and anyone can do this. You don't have to be a peak Olympian to be able to do.
One of the first there's 5 keys to this idea of a medalist mindset, and the first one is goals. Like, how do you even define your goal? And the tagline we have is, what is your Olympics? In track and field and in sports in general, well, for the most part, Olympics is the pinnacle of sport. And so that's sort of dictated to you, which doesn't necessarily mean an athlete should have the Olympics as their goal, but that's sort of seen as this idea of the ultimate in achievement. I think in every person's life, they have their own Olympics, and each one of us has our maximum potential, that if we can be thoughtful about the goals that we set and willing to put in the work to achieve it, that that Olympics, whatever it might be, is possible. As an athlete, I had about a 15-year pro career. I was in 3 Olympics. I was top 10 in the world for a decade. And what I'm most proud of, beyond the medals and records that I set, is that consistency. Because, making an Olympic team is hard. I think 1 in 500,000 or so make it, but to make 3, I don't even think there's a stat for. And that's not to brag, it's to give it was something I needed to step back and take confidence from and really understand, why was that what I'm most proud of? But I think when I say consistency to me means overcoming obstacles. I had injuries, I had not always the best coaching environments, learning how to be resilient, learning how to build a team around me, learning how to, set goals and strive for them even when you fall short, and creating a daily life that facilitated the achievement of those goals. So, to your question about the lifestyle of an Olympian, yes, it's exacting, but I think if we carry ourselves with purpose in life, we can be achieving these great goals, and we should feel really proud when we reach that Olympics, whatever it might be.
I love what you said. I love, figure out what your Olympics are. I've heard it in a different form, which is, figure out what your Mount Everest is.
Exactly.
Figure out what you're gonna, what you're gonna try to achieve. so, you don't come from the cybersecurity world that many of us live in. What have you learned in the time that you've been with West
Strategy Group, yeah.
Group about technology, cybersecurity, and how you can bridge those gaps?
Yeah. I mean, had you asked me 5-10 years ago where I would end up, cybersecurity was not a space that was even on my radar. But Bob West and I became friends back in 2017. He's on the board of USA Track and Field Foundation. And first we started out just as friends, similar kind of core drivers in our personality, similar interests. And that evolved into a mentorship as I tried to pivot outside of professional athletics to my next career. And the soul searching that came with this exploration of, who am I if I'm not an athlete? And that was something, when I described that consistency as being something I'm proud of, part of my transformation and transition journey was really understanding, like, who am I beyond the athlete part? Like, who have I shown myself to be in the world? And when Bob and I work together with clients at West Strategy Group, we're a more boutique consulting firm, but what we're doing is really helping businesses from Bob's end with 30 years of cybersecurity experience. He can come in as the cybersecurity expert, provide go-to-market strategies, investor introductions, support sales teams. I'm able to come in from a leadership perspective and help, whether it's sales kickoffs or internal workshops, marketing opportunities, really helping the team to come together in a way where they can maximize their performance. And what I've loved about cybersecurity is that the core drivers of the professionals that I've met in this space are similar as the pro athletes. Attention to detail, need for consistency, need for resiliency, performance under pressure, purpose-driven, and I think that intersection of things has always been what interests me. And so having the opportunity to work at that intersection of high achievement, and specifically within cybersecurity, when you have people that are so kind of driven and motivated in ways that I really relate to as an athlete.
Yeah, and I think what you've just said is really important, because those of us who are in the industry have been in the industry for a while. We mentor a lot of people who are up and coming, who are transitioning into cyber. And the question that I almost always get is, well, how do I go from this very, very different role to being in cybersecurity? And I think you've laid out how you can take the things you may have learned over here and make them apply over there, and that isn't as big a leap as some people think.
Yeah, it seems like it on the surface, and it's super scary to make that change. When I've tried to, in that process for myself with this most recent career transition, it was, like I was sharing, terrifying, but also opportunity for me to take a step back and understand beyond that, the trappings of that career that I had. What was it that I did that I'm most proud of? What does that speak to about me as a person and what my drivers are? And really working to figure out a way to translate that so that when I am coming into a new space, I'm able to communicate the value that I can add. And I think, I'll add as well, in that transition process, it started out with me. I had my mother growing up always said, do what you love and success will find you. She expected that I would work hard, and she kind of helped teach me how to, have the behaviors of someone who showed up and worked hard consistently. However, there was always this encouragement to really pursue what I was passionate about, because in order to be great, you have to work hard, and it's much better if you love what you're working hard at. And so in that transition, I came back to, what do I care about? I knew I wanted to stay connected to that sporting world or that athlete mindset, but not necessarily as a coach or a trainer. So there wasn't a clear path, but I then thought about the space I was in and the opportunities for improvement that I might be able to add value. So the Medalist Mindset is, taking those athlete tools and applying them into other contexts to help others, creating a maternity policy so that other moms like me, I had my first daughter while still competing and I didn't have any maternity protection, creating those kinds of policies, actually the first ever NGB maternity policy in sport, and now working on a book about exercise and pregnancy. All these areas were things that were right on the periphery of where I was living and kind of became a part of my athlete experience. And I felt like there was a chance to improve on them. And so then I started to invest time into them. I share all of that because I think these individuals, each one of us interact with, that are trying to figure out that pivot or that transition. It's coming back to the core, understanding who we are, and then also looking at the space we're in and see where there's areas for improvement, and really looking at those as goals of where we should spend our time.
No, I think what you said is great. And, I know we were talking beforehand, that the people you admire the most are those who step out of not just being the Olympic athlete that you see on TV, but then going out and doing stuff. And you've certainly, done that yourself. What advice would you give to the person who's sitting there, who's watching this and going, well, but I don't really know what my Olympics are?
Yeah. The first exercise I usually have those that I work with do is, it seems so simple, but it's a sheet of paper with the simple prompt that's, what is your Olympics? Imagine if you had no expectations, if you had no commitments, if you were a kid again, even, like, what would you want to do? And just taking a little bit of time to forget about reality and just dream. And what you write on paper in that moment might not be what you end up pursuing, but I think it's so important to let your heart fly a little bit and to just imagine what's possible, because there's so many reasons to say no to things. There's so many reasons why I should have stopped this Olympic path before it started, or why I shouldn't be here right now with you. But if you're willing to, obviously I was never going to be an NBA star, or there were things that I wasn't capable of given who I am. However, if you're thoughtful about who you are and you just open your mind enough to imagine what's possible, hopefully you can start to flesh out the things that really inspire you, and that can be the beginnings of a goal. Another thing that I love to do is, or someone had said once, okay, if you could only describe yourself in 3 words, what would those words be? And I think that's a fun challenge because there's so much noise, but when you have to distill it down, you create a lot more clarity. You make those critical decisions and thoughts about yourself. For me, it became positive, persistent, and trailblazer. I knew that I always am a glass half full person. I want to see the world in that way. I want to take a challenge as an opportunity. Persistent, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to show up again and again and figure it out. And trailblazer, because I like to be someone at the intersection of things, and I like to try to do things that no one's done before. And so maybe that's a great way to start too. If you don't know what your goal is, define yourself in 3 words, and then from that, kind of see where that leads you in terms of, how you want to spend your time or how you want to approach something.
Absolutely. And while I didn't participate, I've heard only great things. Shannon, you led our fun run this morning, which
did.
I wonder how fun it truly could have been for them to have to run against an Olympian who has gone there 3 times and, reached the pinnacle. But
training is always more fun with friends. I'll definitely say that. So even if it's hard, I always walk away from a hard session. And this applies for any team setting. If you have a good team, the hard work seems more fun and the outcome is better. So I did not want to wake up at 5:30 in the morning, given my California time zone and the time change over here in Florida. However, showing up with friends made it a lot more fun.
We just wanted to, remind you of the old days. So thank you so much, Shannon, for joining us today. This was really great. Thank you all for tuning in for this live interview from InfoSec World 2024. To find all of the Cyber Risk TV coverage for this year's event, visit securityweekly.com/ISW. And thank you again, Shannon.
Thank you.